Hello, my name is Isaiah Coleman. I'm 70 years old and just lost my only son. However, Brenda, my daughter-in-law, told me I had 30 days to leave my house after the dirt fell on his body, that the house was my own work. She thought I was just an old, sad and poor man. She thought she had won. He smiled, put together a small fishing bag and walked away. She had no right to think less of me. Since the following in the morning, she didn't get a real estate agent. In Atlanta, she called the cops. Before I tell you how I found out her web of lies, please let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Please let me know where you are by leaving a note. Also, please follow this station if you like it. It doesn't matter to you how long it takes to do what's right. The November wind at Westview Cemetery was cold. My weak suit let it go right through it. But it wasn't even close to how cold my heart was. I looked at the smooth wood of putting the body in the ground in George's red clay. He is 42 years old, years gone. My hands were shaking. 42. How could a healthy 42-year-old man die? The story said the person had a heart attack out of the blue, said. I just couldn't understand it. Andre knew how to fix things, having hands strong enough to fix anything. He had just changed the oil in my truck 3 weeks before, and it came with a laugh. The engine block was easy for them to pick up. He had a strong heart. His heart was stronger than any I've seen. About Atlanta, my neighborhood and the friends I've had for 50 years, they were sad with me. There was a lot of weight on "Put your hand on my shoulder." It was my friend Miss Alice crying into a handkerchief. We were all family members going through this terrible thing together, sadness. And then there was Brenda, my wife's daughter. Even though she was right next to me, she felt like she was a million miles away. Her black dress shoes had heels that were too high for a graveyard, and her sunglasses were so big that they covered half of her face. That girl wasn't crying. From the side, I kept an eye on her. The person speaking talked about going home. Brenda looked at her smartwatch, which looked sleek and expensive. Then I heard a small click as she locked it and set it back down, angry. I saw her thumb move across the screen. That's right, the priest said. Some of my friends came up to me and said one last thing to cheer me up. I wanted stayed. I had to have some time to myself with my son. But Brenda's hand grabbed my before I could even breathe arm. Her perfectly trimmed blood-red nails dug into my arm. That's enough, Zay, she said softly. Her voice wasn't sad. It was clear. I was mad at her and told her, come on, we have guests. I stared at her very hard. I didn't see the first woman my son loved. I saw someone else. I don't remember much about the reception at my cute Auburn home. It was the house I built with my late wife Serena. Smelled like fried chicken and collard greens that my friends had brought over. They were talking quietly and telling stories about Andre. I saw them look at the pictures on the wall. Serena and I on Andre as a kid in a baseball outfit, with no front teeth, the day of our wedding. I just sat down in my old chair. I felt nothing as I sat in the chair where Serena had died 10 years before. One by one, the guests left. Z, please call us if you need anything. Brother Coleman, the house was finally quiet. The sun was out. The sun was going down, casting long shadows on the living room floor. I was so tired. My only wish was to be alone in my room with my thoughts. Brenda came in from the kitchen. For the funeral, she had taken off her black clothes and put on pants and a snug red jacket, a nice red sweater that fit her well. She looked like she had lost some weight. Okay, she said with her arms crossed. I looked up from my pain and said, the show is over. That made what she said sound strange. Show, she begged, her voice cold. The crying. It's over with the sad old man routine. I tried to stand up, but my knees hurt. Brenda, I'm too tired to talk right now. I just put my son to sleep. She said, I understand. And I did. Please stop crying and get your things before you leave. The words hurt me more than any blow to the body. The air left my lungs. I was so shocked that it made me stand up straight even though I was tired. Brenda, what are you talking about? This is where I live. Serena and I built this house, and this is where I raised Andre. Sure enough, Brenda did laugh. It was a sharp, cold sound that didn't belong in this sad house. No more, Zay. She went to the drawer in the kitchen. That's where I keep the extra keys and guarantees. She looked through a folder, slammed it on the coffee table in front of me, and told me, Andre signed this 6 weeks ago. I looked for my reading glasses and tapped the main page. This is a quitclaim deed. He gave me the house. I grabbed the papers. The writing was legalese, but I could make out the lines. My hands were shaking so badly that I could hardly put them on. You can sign Grant Andre Coleman, Grantee Brenda Coleman, and the bottom of the page. It was Andre's signature, but something wasn't right about it. It was shaky and the A was too round. When he did that, I thought, I don't get it. He would never do that. He was in debt, Brenda said as she looked at her nails without giving it much thought. A lot of debt. We needed to pay it off loan security. The house was the only thing he owned that was worth anything, so I could only use it. A lie, that wasn't true. I knew it as I knew Andre's name 10 years ago as well as my own. I gave him money to open his mechanic shop. That store did well. Andre didn't owe anyone any money. He was very careful with like his mom, he had money. I whispered. He wasn't in debt. Oh, you don't know anything about his life, she said with a laugh. You were just the old man he saw every Sunday. He was upset and sad. After I helped him, he gave me the house. I told him he couldn't do that, and the papers shook in my hands. No touching my hand until we talk first. Well, he did, Brenda snapped. And he's dead now, which is good. I'm the only owner now, and I need to get rid of this dump. I need the money, so you have 30 days. What did she say again? This time in a low voice that turned into a scream of anger. Do you understand? If you don't leave by then, I'll call the Atlanta police and have you arrested for trespassing. Me, old man? I just looked at her. This woman my child loved, person I fed and let into my house. She had waited until they kicked me out of my own house the day I buried my son. I looked at the page with the fake signature. I thought about her looking at her watch in the graveyard. I also thought about how suddenly Andre, who was big and strong, died of a heart attack. I thought about the lies she just told me about the dead, and something changed inside me at that very moment. The terrible sadness that crushed me didn't go away. It became clear like a chunk of ice from a fog. My back straightened up and my hands stopped shaking. I looked up from the papers and saw her eyes, was ready for me to beg, cry, and fight, but all I did was slowly nod. Okay. Brenda's eyes blinked in shock. This was not what she had planned. Okay, there you have it. If the paper says you won't fight, then you won't, he said in a flat, empty voice, and that's it. She replied, good. Tried to get back on her feet. She looked both happy and confused. Okay, 30 days. I want you to go by the 1st of I shrugged and said, next month. I didn't need a month, so I turned around and walked away. She followed me into my bedroom with a frown. What do you mean? I asked. I went to my closet and pushed. I walked past my work clothes and church clothes to find a small worn-out thing in the back, hidden by an old quilt that Serena had made, the canvas backpack bag I always had ready for fishing trips to Lake Allatoona. I took it out and put it down. Brenda's eyes got really big. What is this? Did you plan on I closed the bag, which already held a change of clothes, my shaving kit, and a small hardcover book? Are you going? Book. I walked back into the living room and whispered, Brenda. Wait, she said as I went to the front door. When she yelled, where are you going? I first heard a hint of fear in her voice. You can't just leave. What should I tell them? I said as I stood at the door with my hand on the handle. I turned around and looked at her again. We put up the house that Serena had just taken in the middle of the house. I gave her a small, sad gift. I smiled and left the porch for the cool night air. I had to take care of some things. I shut the door behind me, and the sound of the familiar click echoed through the air. I didn't turn around, but I heard I walked down the steps and onto the curb of the street where I lived, hearing the deadbolt click into place behind me. I could hear Brenda laughing through the closed door. It was a happy, high-pitched sound. Go ahead. It was nice to say goodbye. She felt like she had won. The old man seemed broken and lost. She thought I was lost because I wasn't. I was walking toward a plan. She didn't know she had just started a fight with the owner of half the block over a tiny house she got as a gift. I didn't know either. Don't call the police yet. I had to stop somewhere much more important first. I did make one call before I left, though. I called my lawyer, Kendra Hayes, who had been in charge of Serena Coleman's case. So I was going to sleep in a clean and quiet hotel room. For 10 years, believe me, I told her everything. What Brenda said, the fake document, and the 30-day threat are all things that Kendra is. Don't be a waste of time, Z. Go to sleep. She said, I'll take care of the morning. And she did. Brenda probably. She slept better than she had in months in my bed where I had slept with Serena. She did wake up, though. She saw me and thought I was sleeping on a park bench or in a rundown shelter in the city. She could walk through my house like she owned it and touch my wife's breasts like she owned the place. Her mind was measuring the walls for her new furniture while she took pictures. She made coffee for herself in my kitchen. Serena liked the mug that Andre gave her for Mother's Day because it had little blue flowers on it. I put the table together by myself. She sat down in the chair that Andre used to sit in and made the call she had been meaning to make. I can hear her voice now, and it's all business and honey. Yes, hello. Isis, this really the Atlanta Premium? I'd like to sell a house right now. It's in the Great Auburn area, which is nice home from the past. Yes, it was empty last night because the last owner is no longer here. They were gone in an instant, as if I were trash that she had finally thrown away to the side of the road. She was probably happy and thinking about how much money it would be worth and how good it would feel to get paid. You heard a knock. It wasn't a polite knock, like a friend bringing you food to say sorry. It was the kind of knock that it doesn't ask. It needs 3 strong, heavy raps around the doorframe that you can feel in your chest. She was mad, that was for sure. She stomped to the door, ready to yell at whoever was getting in the way of her victory lap. When the door opened, 2 Atlanta police officers were standing outside. Officer Tyre is a tall brother with a face that Officer Grant, a smart woman who seemed to see everything, had seen too much. They didn't smile. Ma'am, Officer Tyre said in a rough voice, we need to find a Mr. Isaiah. Brenda's smile was full of pride. She leaned against the doorframe and looked like the perfect Coleman. He's not here. He left late last night. I bought this house and now I own it. Could you tell me what I can do to help? Officer Grant looked at Brenda over her shoulder and into my living room, looked back at Brenda and said, a new owner? That's interesting. Brenda smiled even more. That word made her mad. Is there a problem? Officer Grant, there could be a problem, she answered, pulling out her official notepad. Mr. Coleman's lawyer just sent us a formal complaint, she said. The person who filed the complaint says they broke the law by entering the house without permission and staying there without permission. Kendra told me later. Her face stopped bleeding. She stopped being sure of herself. What are you talking about? This is my house. My late husband lived here. I got it from my husband. I live here. She sounded crazy. My neighbor, Miss Alice, was already looking through her blinds, which was a good sign. Officer Tyre put out his hand to calm everyone down. And hold on, ma'am. We're only here to get a job report, but that's all. That wasn't the only reason we were sent there. Brenda stopped moving. I can see her now. That was strange. What else could it be? Officer Ty looked down at his was also made official this morning that there was new information to begin a probe into the strange events that took place around Mr. Andre Coleman's death, the shot that killed him. Brenda slid back and grabbed the doorframe to keep from falling. Kendra said her face looked like the police told her she turned completely white. All the lies, all the pride, all the wins, all of it broken right on my front porch. She said in a whisper, suspicious, a word that's what I could barely get out. The doctor said it was a heart attack, The first report also says Officer Grant said her voice like steel, but Mr. Dr. Coleman's lawyer doesn't seem to agree. Don't believe it. We need to talk to you about some things. Also, ma'am, you should probably not try to sell this house. There is an investigation going on right now. So Brenda didn't say anything else. She just looked at them. Her mind raced as she suddenly realized that the old man hadn't just left to die. He hadn't gone to AI, heard the old man call his lawyer and the police. He was ready to fight back. I wasn't at the police station, where people were working on papers on a cold bench under bright lights. For Hayes and Associates, the office is on the 40th floor of the 1180 Peachtree building, which is on top of Atlanta. It was made of steel and glass and had a view of the city I helped build. The world below looked very small, like a bunch of ants. I didn't want to be holding a cup of hot tea while sitting in a black leather chair with a high back. We're now stable. The shaking stopped as soon as I left my house. Miss Kendra Hayes was sitting across from me at the desk. That's the only person on earth besides me who knew the truth about Serena's will. She's 45 years old and as sharp as a diamond. It's likely that her dark grey suit cost more than my car. She's my lawyer, my money manager, and she's the most like a daughter I have. Her dad and I used to walk these streets together. She was on the phone, her high office attire. You're right. It was an illegal occupation. And yes, there was a written request to I want you to look into the strange things that happened around the beneficiary's death. Andre Coleman. I get it. Please let me know how things are going with the roommate. Thanks. You hung up the phone. She sat up straight and looked at me with a small, tight smile. It wasn't a funny smile. It was a smile of happiness. It's done, she said. The police are on your porch right now. Asked for just a first visit. No one had been arrested yet. She leaned in. Brenda won't get much sleep tonight. I agreed and drank the tea slowly. It was chamomile. Kendra knew that coffee made my mind race, so she had a piece of paper with her. I said, "My voice." She spoke in a soft voice, like a whisper, and said that Andre gave her the house 6 weeks ago. I looked at her and asked, why? The question I was afraid to ask. Did he, Kendra? Did my son really sign it? For Kendra didn't answer right away. She looked at her big computer screen. When she typed in a password, the screen lit up. She said, "Z, I've been busy since you called me from the hotel last night." She clicked on a file, and a paper appeared on her screen, on the screen. It was the deed of quitclaim, and Brenda was named as the grantor. He scanned this and sent it to me by email last week. Kendra said he was lost. Brenda told him to sign it for some reason that had to do with a bank loan. He was curious about what it meant. He did sign it, I said, and my heart sank. Hold on. Kendra clicked again. Another paper showed up next to the first one. It was a copy of Andre's name from his business license. Andre's name from his passport is on a third piece of paper. That was clicked again. I sent our forensic document analyst Andre's scan by email at 4 a.m. because he had to help me. He just sent the report. I leaned back and didn't need to know much to see it. Brenda's signature was shaky on the deed. The loop on the A in Coleman was too round, and the C was too small, like a kid trying to stay inside the lines. Andre's real name was brave, sure and sharp. Kendra said softly, "It's a fake Z, a fake, and our investigator says it's a bad one." He said, "It looks like someone tracked it, but I felt something rush over me as I read with a shaky hand and a guilty conscience. It wasn't a comfort. The cold and pain were worse. I knew my son would not let me down, but his wife tried to. She then signed his name." I said the words had an ashy taste. "She meant to take the house." Kendra said yes. "Sure she did. The file was closed." "Z, that's not even the most important thing." I looked at her and didn't get it. What's more important than cheating? Kendra put her hands together and leaned back, on the desk made of shiny wood. "Remember the promise you made to Serena Z before she died? Have a place in the hospital?" Serena was weak, but she still held my hand and had beautiful eyes. How could I forget her? "Zay," she barely said, "we built this from nothing. From dust and dreams. Don't let some girl with a pretty smile and an empty heart tear it down. All down. Protect our boy. Protect our work." I remember every word I stated in a whisper. "She was always right, wasn't she?" Kendra asked with a smile. She could see Brenda coming from a mile away. "That's why it does not matter if that signature was real or not. It doesn't matter how many times Andre signed the paper." I frowned. "Kendra, I don't get it." She pulled out a big heavy book bound in leather. It was moved across the desk. There were gold letters on the top that said, "It was the day after Serena's funeral that we set up the Serena Coleman Trust. Don't forget that you were drunk when you signed the papers. We moved all of our belongings, such as deeds, stocks, and other assets. There was a portfolio with every brick in every building we had ever owned." When she tapped the cover, the house on Sweet Auburn Street was there. The room felt thin all of a sudden, and when I looked at Kendra, I understood what was going on. It was home Isaiah Coleman. "You only own the clothes on your back and the bank account I handle for you. That house is owned by the Serena Coleman Trust, and I am in charge of it. You haven't lived there in 10 years. I slowly became aware of it. That is, even if Andre had signed it, that paper wouldn't be useful." Kendra's voice was smug with happiness. "You can't give away what you have. Z. Andre knew about the trust because he was in the office with us when we talked about it. He knew he was rather than the owner, he was the recipient. He was sure everything was okay. She tried to get something from Andre that he wasn't even willing to give her. Zay, she's not just mean. She doesn't know anything. Was so interested in the tiny 3-bedroom house she saw that she didn't even ask about the company it was built on." I took a deep breath and let the news sink in. The court win was Brenda wasn't smart and didn't have anything, but she never felt better. I looked out the window and saw that the little cars for ants were gone. This made me think of a new, much darker question. Still going. The city was still running, but my life had stopped. Things were moving and the sadness was going away. Serena, the man who built that business, had a sharp mind, was finally taking over after getting married. "But Kendra," I whispered as I turned around to look at her. "That doesn't make sense. What part?" "My son Andre knew about the not useful paper. He knew about the trust. He was going to get my money. He was going to get everything." I stood up straight and looked at him. He knew the fake paper he made wouldn't work, so why did he make it? Why would you sign something with a fake signature? He wouldn't have shown me that scan last week if he didn't want to. Kendra's work mask began to fall off. She knew exactly what I was thinking. She leaned in close and spoke softly. She spoke in a low voice and said, "Zay is the $20 million question." There was a number in the air between us. "How much does Serena Coleman trust you for?" "I've been thinking about that all morning. Why would he do something that doesn't make sense? Not sure what to do with a fake document." She stopped and let the silence last for a moment so I could make the connection. That one awful dot made my blood freeze, unless he made it up. "Yes," Kendra said. Brenda must have made it up because she thought Andre owned the house and was going to face him. He might have sent me the scan because he was scared, or he might have known something was wrong. She got up and walked up to the window and stood next to me, shoulder to shoulder, looking out at the city. "Zay, it's all connected. Forgery, a fake signature, and a last-ditch effort to get the one thing she could see." She turned to look at it. I could see a cold fire in her eyes that I had only seen in Serena. It had something to do with how quick, helpful, and a healthy 42-year-old man had a heart attack at the right time. She didn't just want the Kendra said in a cold voice, Z house. She wanted everything. "Andre yours?" she asked. Andre was only in her way, son. Kendra worked in a place with a meeting room that built to scare people. It was 40 stories high, and one wall was made of glass that looked down on the people on Peachtree Street scurried around like ants. The table was made of one big piece of black wood that had been polished so much that you could see right through it. It showed your face. Brenda and her new lawyer sat to one side. His name was Ron Soloway, and I knew what kind of person he was. Some people thought the man was too sure of himself. He looked like he thought he was the smartest person in the room, even though he thought he was about to run over a sad old man. Especially when he thinks he's going to hit a sad old man. Brenda sat next to him as she used to, as the sad widow. She was wearing a simple black dress and holding a tissue. She wouldn't look at me, so I sat down. The other person was quiet. Kendra Hayes was sitting at the head of the table with her files, stacked in 3 neat thin stacks. She was calm and in charge of her work. "Let's keep this simple," Ron Soloway said as he stuck out his chest in a whiny way, adding a copy of the quitclaim deed to the table. It stopped right in front of me. "My client, Mrs. Bylaw, Brenda Coleman, owns the land at 412 Sweet Auburn Avenue. This is the deed. Wrote it 6 weeks before he died in a terrible accident." He leaned back and laced his shoes over his worn-out clothes with his fingers. "We're shocked. We know you're sad, Mr. Coleman, but it's disgusting to use that sadness to bother a widow." Brenda let out a short, well-timed cry into her. Ron said with fake tears in his voice, "We're here as a courtesy. We don't want to add to anyone's sadness, but the police have been bothering my client at her own house, because of the false report you made. That's over now. If this abuse doesn't stop, we'll file right away." He then spread his hands wide apart and said, "For a restraining order, and we will sue you for emotional distress. What do you want to say?" I did nothing but look at him. I didn't say anything. I did nothing. Kendra smiled. It was a polite, cold, and edged sharp smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you for that performance, Mr. Soloway," she said in a soft voice, glass-like. "I enjoy going to the show. Now let's talk about facts." She also put across the table is a piece of paper with 1 page on it. She also said that this buy is proof from Mr. Marcus Alvarez. He has been qualified by a board to look at forensic documents, and we have already hired him as an expert witness. Ron, the smug grin went away. He took the paper. "There are lots of expert witnesses out there. We can get our own. Even so, I insist." Kendra replied with a bigger smile, "Yes, you do. Still, please have your professional check out how dense the ink is. Have him look at the Andre has delay marks on the first stroke of the A. Tell him to pay attention to patterns of pressure that show a record that was meant to be there, not a signature that just happens." Brenda's tone of voice rose quite high. Andre was not feeling well. His hand was shaky. Kendra beautifully raised an eyebrow. "Was he?" "That was 6 weeks ago, Mrs. Coleman. He was sick. All the people who worked with him at the auto shop said he was. The day before he died, he was able to lift engine blocks just fine. They said he was in great shape." She leaned forward. "No, Ron Soloway says this deed's signature is fake, and Mr. Alvarez says it's a really bad one. Even though he laughed, I could see a drop of sweat on his forehead." "That's a strong charge. It's not possible to go back, his word against ours." "That's the funny part," Kendra said, her voice sparkling. She said, "We don't have to. Hold on for a second in the air." Ron looked like he had no idea what to do. "What?" "I said we don't. We don't need to show that it's a fake. Mr. Soloway, I'll save you the trouble of getting your own expert, because even if anyone could have signed that, even Andre himself, if he came down from heaven and sat down, the paper wouldn't be worth much even if Ron sat down at this table and signed it with a golden pen in front of us all, became very pale all of a sudden." "What are you talking about?" Kendra reached down and picked up a thick, heavy leather bound. When she set the binder down on the table, it made a solid, expensive sound. The cover had gold-embossed letters that said Kendra said, "This is the Serena Coleman Trust," as she tapped the cover 3 times. It was made after Mr. Coleman's wife Serena died 10 years ago. Ron was in her line of sight. The person I work with, Isaiah Coleman, does not own that house. It's been 10 years since he owned it. It was Serena. That land is owned by the Coleman Trust. As the head of the trust, I can say for sure that you can't buy it." Ron's jaw dropped. He quickly took a look at his. "These studies are not strong. That's not going to work. We looked for titles. The land is owned by Isaiah and Serena Coleman. This is something that careless lawyers do a lot. What Kendra said was, all the kindness is gone from her. Voice. You did a simple online search for $50. You did not look over the move of Fulton County docket. 15884 shows that funds were put into the trust. Everything is public record. If you had looked into it, you would have found out that your client's contract is not valid. Ron looked at Brenda. His face showed that he was worried. He had just found out that his client had lied to him, put him in a scam, and then he felt bad about himself in front of everyone. A trust fund? He asked in a low voice. What kind of trust fund? He's just a carpenter, he told me. That's what my client told me. Just an old carpenter. Brenda cracked up, it all in, all the playing, all the fake sadness, all the smugness. He's right, she said as she jumped up. Her chair almost fell over on the wooden floor. She screamed in a room with high ceilings and her voice could be heard. The mask was gone. This was the real Brenda, a trust fund. You're lying, she said, pointing at me with a shaking finger and red nails. I hadn't said anything. I only said one word and looked at her. He's an old man who is now retired. He lives in trash, his clothes are old, and he doesn't have any trust funds. She was breathing hard and her eyes were wide open, a mix of rage and pure animal fear. You're not telling the truth, you poor old builder. Brenda's scream hit the glass walls and died down before Kendra Hayes could yell, into a heavy, shocked silence. Ron Soloway, the lawyer in the shiny suit, his eyes kept going back and forth between Brenda and Kendra, as he tried to find his balance on ground that was, it doesn't make sense for this to happen. If you have a trust, we need to see the papers. Kendra was cool and just crossed her arms, scared her more than Brenda's anger. Oh, Mr. Soloway, she said in a sad voice. Are you still not getting it? You're still crazy about the house. Still you think like a small-time lawyer. Are you sure this is just one little bungalow? She slowly and sadly shook her head. Your customer yelled that Mr. Coleman is just a former carpenter. She's right, he is, yes. The work he did with his hands makes him very happy. The man who has been working quietly for the past 40 years is also this person. Bought the land on which those hands worked. She looked at Brenda, who was still standing there and breathing hard. Her face was red and had spots on it. Dear Brenda, have you lived in Atlanta for a while now? People are building new things. There are nice restaurants and lots of money. But you never asked who owned the land. Kendra spoke up to break the silence and say that Isaiah and Serena, his wife, started before it was cool. No one else would buy land in the old Fourth Ward. But I did. They bought land in Inman Park when they had faith in this place. They didn't just work there. They also lived there, spend money on it. Kendra picked out a few points on her fingers. The Serena Coleman Trust, which Equite has title to 12 apartment buildings in the old Fourth Ward and 3 business blocks in Inman Park. She stopped for a moment and pointed to the fancy room, saying that it also owned the house. In this whole tower we are their renters. Brenda's seemed to go. It looked like her knees were going to give out. Ron Soloway came up with, like he had choked, he made a sound like he swallowed his tongue. I had been quiet the whole time. I had been seeing the bride my son got married to, the woman who checked her watch while he was being buried, the woman who tried to throw. I saw her figure it out. It was now my turn. I put my rough, calloused hands on the smooth table. They felt like a carpenter's. It was the first time I had, however, my voice was very quiet. But it seemed like a hammer was hitting something in the room where there was no other sound. Brenda jumped as if I had yelled when I said, we lived simply. My wife Serena and I didn't think it was cool to show off. We didn't get dressed. We didn't have expensive cars. We didn't need to. We believed it was important to create. We believed in work. I looked right into Brenda's scared eyes. He knew this about Andre, his son. He knew everything. I showed him how to take care of what I learned how to read the ledgers, take care of the things his mother and I built, and be a good ruler of them. He was my heir, I told him, giving the words time to sink in. He was almost ready to take over the whole business. which Brenda thought was worth a lot of money, almost $20 million. Brenda didn't just sit down when she said twomp, she fell. She fell back in her chair and gaped open her mouth, making a soundless "oh" out of pure shock. Everything in the sky after the fight and all the poison went away at once. $20 million. She got married to a $20 million man and had no idea it. She was so focused on taking his car that she didn't notice that he owned the whole store. She tried to make a fake, a $300,000 house. He had no idea that he was about to become rich. Her face showed more than just shock. Being greedy for a long time and realizing what it has lost hurt. Just now Ron Soloway looked at me, as I forgot the name of the cheap legal pad I used. It looked like he was going to throw up. "So you see," Kendra said in a stern voice, "I'm going to pick up right where I left off again. Don't worry about that little house on Sweet Auburn. You can't have it. The trust will definitely own it by the end of the day. But the house," she said with a wave of her hand. She looked up and said, "Isn't the point anymore?" The numbers were still making her head spin. What is the why?" Kendra leaned across the table, and the black ice chips in her eyes stood out. "The idea," she said, "is that we are why did you feel the need to make a fake signature for your husband? We need to know why so badly. You told your own lawyer that you owed money when you didn't. We're also a whisper came out of her because she was interested. Why the son of my friend is completely healthy. A 42-year-old man died of a heart attack right after you found out you couldn't. There was no telling why. Get his money off of him." Even though Brenda looked scared, it wasn't about money anymore. It was about quite different from what you thought. What scared them was the thought of being caught. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said in a low voice as she looked at the door and reached for her purse. "His death was a mistake. It was his heart." The meeting with Brenda was frozen with fear as Ron Soloway almost sped out of the room after her lawyer left. They didn't say anything. They ran away. It was quiet again in Kendra's office. The rush of energy from There was only one thing left to say. My son was dead and his wife was probably dead too. Being responsible. Kendra and a man I didn't know walked into the meeting room through the door. He was big and his body looked like an old oak tree. His suit looked like it had been worn all night, but his eyes he was smart and sharp. He looked like he had been watching people for a long time and hadn't missed anything. Kendra then said, "This is Malachi Rivers." "Mal, this is my client, Mr. Isaiah Coleman," Mal replied. Malachi, or Mal as he was known, he called my name and shook my hand. He had a firm grip, and his hand felt rough just like mine. "Mr. Coleman, I'm sorry for your loss. Kendra told you that Mal is the best and that things are tough for you." She went to the table and sat down. He was a murder officer for 20 years with the APD. He now helps people like us find things that the cops had time to look for. Mal said yes and sat down. He pulled out a pen and a small worn-out leather pad. He just looked at me and didn't say anything. He knew how to listen well. I took a deep breath. It was strange to talk. It made me feel bad to talk about my family in this way. But Andre was gone, so it was time to let down our guard. Was about being fair. I told Brenda, my daughter-in-law, that my voice was still scratchy. She told him that he owed money. That is why he is said to have given her the house. Mal did nothing but nod and keep writing. I said that it was not true. My son Andre was a good boy. He dealt with money well. He made his own business from the ground up, at first with some help from me. He wasn't careless, though. He didn't like to bet. He wasn't a fool. To say the next words, but he was blind when he loved Brenda without thinking about it. I told him and warned him. I thought of Andre and I were in my workshop last Christmas, and the air was filled with the smell of sawdust. "Son, I told you that. She spends money like it's nothing and her eyes are so beautiful." Brenda told Andre, "A pop, you're just old-fashioned," after he laughed. "It's okay that she wants nice things. It won't hurt her." Mal didn't listen when I told him over and over to forget about it. She says he owed money, but I don't think my son did. I think she did. Please tell me the truth. Malachi wrote in his notepad, check her money, not his. Money from the wife's bills, gambling, and credit cards. I get it. Kendra leaned in. In a serious voice, she stepped forward and took charge. Mal, here's the deal. Brenda made a fake quitclaim deed for Mr. Coleman's house after her husband died of a heart attack. She thought Mr. Coleman was a retired builder with one house. She just found out today that he had a heart attack, is in charge of a $20 million trust, and her late husband was the only child. Malachi's face didn't change. $1 million exactly, Kendra said. And she didn't change. He looked up at her. I didn't know about it. This means she wanted the $300,000 house so badly that she was ready to lie and maybe even kill to get it. Mal said in a low voice, that's a great reason. Things get better. Kendra. Going on, Andre had already asked for a divorce, and 3 days later he did it again. She was cut off from everything before he died. Malachi let out a low whistle, which let her know she was about to be. I think she has a lot of debt and no husband or house. I told her clearly, that's what we need you to find. Brenda said Andre owed money, and I agreed. Find that bill. Find out what she owed and how bad things really were for her. Kendra gave him a file. This is all we know about. We know her SSN, bank account information, car information, and where she works. I want to know everything about her. Which calls did she make and what did she eat for breakfast? Also, did she buy anything strange? She and Kendra both need to tell me if they looked up how to fake a heart attack on their computers. She had him and my son's love. Why wasn't it enough? Malachi Rivers put down his paper and looked at me. That's when I noticed something different about his eyes. I could tell from the man's eyes that he had seen more than just the worst of people. Mr. Coleman, in a calm, deep voice. From what I've seen, she always seems to have more than enough. Love doesn't pay the bills, not when it's from a bookie. He stood up and put the file under his arm. I'll start with her money and games. I'll get the credit cards and bills and then look at where she went and who she met in the last 2 weeks. I'll find her creditors. He looked at me and said, yes, Mr. Coleman. It's true that she was in debt, not your son. And when you're that far behind, you don't need a, Kendra said. You only need a chance. Find everything, Mal. I want enough proof to bury her. It's not just about a house anymore. I get it, Mal said. This is about killing someone. I'll get back to you in 48 hours. He gave me a respectful nod once and then he left. I sat in the quiet he left behind. The first step had been taken. Threw us off. Now we had to wait for the waves. He's good, I said. He's the best, Kendra said. He'll find it. I looked out the window again, but the city was still. From this height it seemed very quiet. But I knew that somewhere in the streets a danger was. They were free. It was a woman who smiled at my child, and then I was sure stopped his heart. She called me old man, and I told her no, Kendra asked. Brenda was at the house after the funeral. She called me old man because she thought I was weak and just a sad, broke old man. She thought I was stupid and didn't know anything. I looked away from the window and at my lawyer. It was a cold, hard day. I was angry and strong. She was about to find out how wrong she was. Kendra's office was full of people. Today was 48 hours since we met Brenda. For 48 hours, I had been waiting on the floor of my hotel room. I was waiting on the floor of my hotel room while Kendra worked and made calls. Her voice was a low, steady hum in the background. I had only been thinking about Andre while sitting in that quiet hotel room and looking out at the city of Atlanta. As I think about the past 42 years, Malachi Rivers was always on time. At 9:01, he rang the doorbell once and walked into Kendra's office, carrying a thin suitcase and an old leather notebook. He looked worn out, however, he looked awake. He gave me a nod and Kendra sat down and opened his file right away. Mr. Coleman, Ms. Hayes, his voice was low and rumbling at first. You asked. I asked Brenda Coleman if she owed money, and she did. Malachi looked at me and said, Mr. Cole, your daughter-in-law wasn't just owing money. It was making her drown. You said she was acting like a sad widow. That's what she's doing, Kendra said. Putting her hands on the Maliki said that her sadness made her go on a road trip. The next day, the Andre paid to drive north for 5 hours the day after the service. He slid a shiny picture across the very clean table. It wasn't a file photo, Brenda. It was fuzzy and taken from far away. She was standing she had a number of chips in front of her at a blackjack table. Although she wasn't crying, she looked very upset and had her eyes fixed on the cards. Asked, "Where is this?" which made my stomach turn. The main floor of the Malachi said the trip to the Horseshoe Casino in Cherokee, North Carolina took 12 hours. There all night, and she wasn't just gaming. She lost a lot of money. He missed a second shot. There was a lot of yellow light outside in front of the casino, which made this picture look bad. Was scared and pressed up against a column. In front of her stood a big scary man in a bad suit. It wasn't a nice smile. "Who is that?" Kendra asked as she leaned forward. "It was Slick Vinny Russo that Malachi said his name is. He's not employed by the restaurant. He's a one shark. He seems unhappy with his business, which he runs out of Marietta. My guy she was down on the ground and asked for more time. She wasn't there to have fun, Mr. Coleman. She had to pay up or leave or beg," I said in a heavy voice. "So I was right. She has a lot of problems." "You don't understand the half of it," Maliki said. A notepad was opened. "You said that she said Andre owed money. That was the first I checked." He looked at me and for a moment his eyes got softer. "Your son, Mr. Coleman, was clean. He was very careful. His auto shop was doing well and his credit score was 810. He didn't owe anyone anything else. His property taxes were paid on time and he was a good citizen." "That's what we thought," Kendra said. "Brenda," Malachi said next. "Brenda doesn't have any money on paper. She doesn't have any for a woman who is 40 years old. She doesn't have any official debts like credit cards, auto loans, mortgages, or anything else." 2025. "I always heard her say that Andre took care of all the money," I stated. "Yes, he did," Maliki answered, said, "but not in the way you think. He paid for her life, not for the bad things she did. I had to leave. I looked into it more. I got records from foreign accounts and online sports betting. Sites in Costa Rica." He turned a page in his notes and found the real story. "Mrs. Coleman has 3 children, active lines of credit, with high interest rates with overseas gambling sites. She's been sending money back and forth between them. Kendra has been losing a lot of money for a long time to get it back." "How much, Mal?" she asked in a cold voice. "From this morning on, Malachi. From what I've heard from my source and what I see on the internet, she owes Slick Vinny $150,000, he said. $150,000. The room was cold. Andre lived his whole life in the hole, she told Zay, and his trust is worth 20, but the shop he built it in wouldn't even be enough to cover it. Million. It was like she was sitting on a gold mine and couldn't get any money. "It gets worse," Maliki said. "I looked back at 3 loan requests from the past month that were turned down. They were all for home equity loans. The ones that were sent to your house, Zed, were all fake and used Andre's name and PIN. Because the house isn't in his name, the banks turned them down. When she faked the deed, I told her, the pieces are falling into place. She did it because she thought she could use the house as to give money to Vinny. She probably thought the trust was legalese she could ignore." Yes, Malachi said she was crazy because she was running out of time and couldn't, but Andre found out. Kendra looked up. "The argument? You found the security footage?" Malachi replied, "I did." He pulled it out. He turned over a small laptop. "That was from the BP station on Howell Mill Road the night he died. They called 911 from their apartment at 10:03 p.m. This video is from 9:15 p.m. when he hit play. The bright, busy lights of the gas station were shining on Andre's blue Ford pickup. Andre was in the driver, and Brenda were in the passenger seat. There was no sound, but we didn't need it. The scene inside the car was pretty. Andre's face was dark with anger, in a way I had never seen it in my child before. And the truck was very mean, ever since 1972. He was shaking badly, and Brenda was yelling. "God," I whispered as my hand stopped moving. "What does he have in his hand?" I asked. "Watch," Malachi said, pointing to the TV. Kendra asked. Andre let out a roar. It was too quiet for us to hear. He stood Brenda up and threw a big stack of papers at her. The white pages blew up in the cab and fell all over the dashboard and her lap like confetti. She jumped back as if she screamed in anger and put her hands on the papers to pick them up. He just yelled and stuck his finger in her face while his arm was straight and shaking. Then he hit the steering wheel with both hands so hard that the whole truck shook. "It was over," he told her. "I knew your son. That was the end." Malachi turned off the recorder. After 2 minutes, he left. After less than an hour, Brenda called 911 to report that her husband had a heart attack and was not breathing or aware. I quickly looked at the frozen picture of my son's hurt and angry face. It was the papers. What were they? Mal, was it the fake? The bills you got from gambling? Malachi said, "That's what I thought." But the deed was only one piece of paper. Bank statements might be longer, but this was thick, at least 20 or 30 pages. There was no way out for me. I spent all day yesterday trying to figure out what to do. I looked through those papers, but couldn't find anything. I told you that you did find something, but it wasn't a question. "I did," Malachi replied, and I began to think. What would a smart person do first if Andre found out about the fake and the $150,000 debt? A smart man doesn't just scream at a gas station when he owes money. He takes care of himself first. Kendra's, he calls his lawyer, that's right. But he didn't, Malachi said. They called you Ms. Hayes because you were in charge of the trust. This was a marriage, Kendra said in a low voice. A divorce lawyer. Malachi replied, "That's right." I ran. I looked at Andre's secret cell phone records from 2 weeks ago. 3 times he called a number I didn't know. It eluded me. A small law company in Buckhead that is run by Maria Flores, a very expensive family law expert, a divorce lawyer who kept things very secret and charged a lot of money. I spoke the word, my tongue feels strange. Andre, he was finally going to leave her. A terrible pain of loss mixed with a sharp thank goodness. He was leaving. That's how it looks, Mr. Coleman. Malachi said, "This morning I went to the office and showed Miss Flores my credentials. I told her what they were for. Because of attorney-client protection, she was scared. But when I used the words suspicious death, and when I told her about the $20 million trust, she was much more willing to help." Malachi took something from his suitcase, and he pushed the last file across the table, which was a small legal package. Kendra asked, "What is this?" She put her hand on it, and Malachi told her that those were the papers he threw at her. Face and my hand was shaking. Kendra opened the flap and took out what was inside. "Oh my God," she screamed, and set them down on the table. 2 days before he died, she filed for divorce. The second one? The second one was a new will, and Andre was said to be very proud of it by his lawyer. Malachi said in a low voice. He signed it, had witnesses sign it, and had it notarized just 3 days before he died. He was guarding it. He had his things on hand to protect you, Mr. Coleman. I reached out and touched that was Andre's new will. It was very simple and only 1 page long. It got rid of everything. It also said in big clear letters that all of his personal property, like his business, truck and house, was his. Isaiah Z. Coleman, Brenda's dad, was supposed to get all of her savings and anything else that wasn't in the Serena Coleman Trust. It wasn't marked with a name. Kendra and I both looked at each other. That was the last piece of the puzzle that fit together. Brenda was aware that she owed money and that her marriage was ending. It dawned on her that she would lose everything, not just her house, Andre had shown her proof at that gas station. I knew with a terrible jolt that he had given her. There was a glass wall between Kendra's conference room and mine, and Malachi was sitting across from me. He was reading a report to explain why he was killing someone. It was thin, but it looked like a grave. $150,000. That's my best guess, Malachi said in a low voice that made the high-gloss table shake. First, I just nodded and said, probably more. I wasn't shocked by the number. I didn't know I needed that last piece of the puzzle until I saw it. Wanted to find out. Malachi Slick Vinny Russo doesn't like being held up. Did not stop. She had until the end of the month, he told her. It had been 5 days since Andre's death. She didn't have enough time and not able to choose. After looking out at the city from the window for a while, Kendra turned around. Her face was sad. That brings us to these, she said as she went back to the table. It wasn't from her files. It came from somewhere else. These were brought to me this morning by Maria Flores, the divorce lawyer Malachi found. She told me that Andre was mad. It was a mix of anger and fear when he came to her. He said Brenda was strong and could do anything. I had my hands together. He was right, Kendra said in a low voice. Ms. Flores said that Andre asked her to sign the papers after he did so, to keep the first ones. He promised Brenda copies. He sought to do it in person. He told her she had to. She tapped the envelope and looked at me. These, she said. She needs to see that it's real. She needs to know it's over. These are the originals. These are the papers Andre threw at his wife less than an hour before she called 911. I was having trouble breathing. I saw Kendra's smooth, thin hands open the flap and take out 2 papers. She pushed the first one toward me. I didn't need my reading glasses to read the big, bold letters at the top. Questionto split up. I traced the names with my finger. Hey, Andre Coleman. The person who is asking for and responding is Brenda Coleman. I saw the date it was filed with the Fulton County Court 2 days before he died. He did it. I whispered a terrible pain. Something sad is happening to me. He was leaving her for good. He was going away. He left Kendra. He thought about both himself and you. The second one was pushed, gave the paper to me. This one wasn't the same. It wasn't something the court had. It was less hard. The title said Last Will and the Will of Andre Coleman. I could tell it was 3 days until he died. There were witnesses and a notary in Maria Flores's office when it was signed. I read the words out loud. It was quick and clear, like my son. I, Andre Coleman, am getting rid of all of my old wills and plans. I read the next part. I give up my computer and leave it. Everything I own, like my business, Andre's auto repair, and all of my bank accounts, they have accounts in my name, my car, and all of my small things. My dad is Isaiah Coleman. I read the sentence over and over to look for the name that wasn't there. Brenda's name was gone. She was completely, legally, and fully not inheriting. The room was quiet. The only sound was the hum of the city 40 stories below. The papers for the divorce were read to me. I read the new will. I thought about what Joshua said. $150,000. I thought about the fake document. Also, at the gas station, I thought about the fuzzy movie. My son threw those papers at the woman who cursed at him. He wasn't just yelling at her. He showed her something. He was letting her see the end of everything in her life. I looked up at Kendra, and the cold, hard truth finally hit me like a ton of bricks, a steel piece. I told her she already knew. My voice stopped shaking. It was no longer there. That night in the truck, I told her she knew. She lost more than just her house. She was unable to get... She lost everything. I stood up, pushed the chair back, and went to the wall. The city was moving, and people were going about their days. I looked down and saw what was going on. What was going on up here? She didn't get anything from him after they split up. The will said she would not get anything from him after he died. They were going to break her legs because she owed so much money. She didn't have anything, I said quietly. He just proved it to her. She had nothing to lose. I looked at them when I turned around. The sadness was still there, like a hot rock in my chest, but now there was only cold anger around it. Kendra Hayes stood up, her face covered in ice-cold anger. "That's right, Z," she replied. She whispered, trying to hold back her anger as her voice shook. "This is no longer about theft or a fake signature." She moved over and put her hand on my shoulder. "It's not about a house," she said. "This is gold. This is killing someone." She was in my living room and my wife's. The mailman showed up in the living room. She was probably counting down the hours until she could sell Serena's old things, furniture. She signed the big legal envelope with a big, angry swoop, probably because she thought it was just more paper. Proof from her own bad lawyer. She tore it open with one of her long red nails. She took the papers. I wish I could have seen her face then. The first page was read. It was an official notice from Kendra. Hayes's law firm told her that the fake title was being looked into by the local government. She most likely laughed at that old story. Then she read the next page. It was a copy of the report from the forensic document analyst. It laid out in dry scientific language how it was not a real autograph. It talked about marks of delay, strange pressure, and clear signs of tracing. Her heart at that point, it probably began to beat a little faster. Then she read the third page. Maria Flores swore that she was telling the truth, his lawyer for the divorce. It said that Andre paid her to help him begin the divorce process. Brenda's throat must have hurt when she breathed. The last page she read was the fourth one. A proof copy of Andre's new will. The will that took everything away from her. Not at all. It's possible that she lost the papers. She lost more than just her house. She had lost everything before Andre died. She failed at everything she had planned. She was stuck. They admitted theft. I can see her shaking and pacing the floor. The walls if my house came down on her. She had to have thought about the cops as they questioned her. Not sure a situation. Most likely she thought about how much she owed. $150,000. Vinnie Russo looks good. The month was almost over. She was not going to be poor. She wasn't just going to be not having a place to live. She was going to jail. Then she would have thought about Andre, how he died, and the heart attack she had attack. If she had known, Zay and Kendra were up to more than just looking around the house. They were interested in her. Their goal was to find the killer. She couldn't get away. Everything that is true, all the money and all the rules, everything worked out for me. She had no way to get away. That's what animals do when they are caught. Do. She chose to bite. She had no good points to make when I told her the truth. She would spend the rest of her life in jail because of her whole life. I wasn't getting paid to fight. She found out that I had everything and she didn't. That's why she chose to. The only tool she had left and knew how to use was what she used to fight me. She would go to court and fight me. What people believe. She would have a different story to tell. It wouldn't be about a parent who is sad about the death of his kid and wants justice. Son, no. She knew a lot more than that. She took out her phone. Her hands, there's no question that they were shaking, but not because they were scared. They were angry. She looked through her phone book, past the sharks and the bookies until she found a name. Donnie Price on Channel 5 News. Nearby, she told the reporter that she met at a party that a man she knew was always looking for a good story. She took a big breath. Take a deep breath. She closed her eyes. She was no longer the scared liar when she opened her eyes. It was she who was sad a widow. She made me cry. She pressed the call button. "Hey, Donnie," she whispered, and her voice broke up in a beautiful way. "Mr. Donnie Price. I see Brenda here. Kathy Columbine, the wife of Andre." She stopped for a second and sobbed at the right time. "Yes, thanks. It has been a terrible nightmare. Thanks for the present. One more break, Donnie, I'm scared to death. I called everyone else but them. Something terrible is going on. My husband is married to Isaiah Coleman. That guy does own all that land. Doesn't let Donnie take anything from me, Donnie. I lost my husband. My partner has only. It's been 2 days since he died and now he wants to leave my house. He says I made up papers to prove something. God, he's saying I'm a criminal, he told me. I'm sure she was crying now, tears of pure skill at controlling people. I do not know what to do. He's a rich, powerful black millionaire who wants to wreck me. And I'm a sad white woman. He has a lot of money and lawyers, but I don't. Could you please just tell me your story? She listened and nodded, then faked tears and wiped them away. Yes. I can be ready in an hour, she told Donnie. Thanks, you're saving my life. My tears stopped as soon as she hung up the phone. I can see her face changing into a mask of cold, hard calculation. She couldn't win in court, so she planned to put me on trial on the $6 news. Let's see how Atlanta likes that, she said. She probably said, story, old man, to the quiet, empty house. Let's see them turn against the poor, grieving widow. Widow? Kendra called me in my hotel room. She didn't say hello. She told him to turn on Channel 5 right away. I fought for the handle, my hands shaking, being shaken. At 6 the news came on the TV in the room. It was my house. My Serena and I had spent a huge amount of time watching the world go by from the porch. Brenda was there as well. She looked small and weak. She was wearing a simple white shirt and no makeup. Her hair was pulled back. It looked like things were going badly for her. She had a word with the writer named Donnie Price. From the way he looked, it was clear that he was worried about his job. Becky, I don't know where else to go, said in a low voice, and her voice broke just right. My husband Andre was away for a few days. She began to cry, stuck in her throat. The camera was on one of her tears as it ran down her face. He or she put their hand on top of her. You said some very bad things, Mrs. Coleman. What's going on? Becky took a breath that moves around. My husband is married to Isaiah Coleman. She called my name that way. It was not good. The news person said, he wants to kick me out of my house, shocked. Just a few days ago you buried his son and now he's kicked you out. Yes, she did, cried, and the tears came faster. He owns $1 million home and is very wealthy. He owns a part of Atlanta. I'm a widow with nothing. He also wants to take this, which is the only thing my husband Andre left me home. It was hard for me to breathe. Just now I was looking at the TV. She was great. She was awful, but she was very smart. He didn't like me. She talked on and looked right into the camera the whole time, into the eyes of everyone watching in Atlanta. He never believed I was good enough for Andre. He never agreed to our getting married. That moment she seemed to need to gather her strength to say the next thing. It could be, since I'm not from his world. I'm just a normal white woman from Marietta. He not as strong as he is. I don't have his money. It was there. She did it. She really done it. She cried because Andre wasn't there anymore. There is no one left to look out for me. I love his kid, so he is punishing me. What should I do? What can a sad and lonely white widow do to a rich, strong man like that? He has a lot of experts on his team. I have not having anything. My husband's memories are the only thing left, and he's also trying to take those. The reporter, Donnie Price, looked right into the camera and was furious. Something that shocked me. Mrs., do you mean Coleman is making you walk around outside? She spoke softly as if the words didn't mean anything. He gave me 30 days, were not clear. A month? Right after they were buried. I had to find out. I should leave, he says. Please help me, someone. The news came back on TV, in the studio as a host. She looked like she didn't believe it and felt bad for them. A story that makes your heart hurt. We talked to you. Our managers asked Mr. Isaiah Coleman to say something, but we haven't heard back yet. When Kendra's phone rang, it buzzed in my hand. Mine was thrown against the wall by me. Her cell phone, her work phone, and my hotel phone. There were rings on all of them. A storm had just gone through my head. Kendra turned off the TV with the remote. Her office was quiet, a lot of noise. The phone was ringing on the desk and she looked at it. There was a screen on. It was a blog about local news. It said, Grieving Widow versus Atlanta Millionaire in the headline. She looked at one more. Sweet Auburn land baron tries to get rid of his white daughter-in-law. She did it, I said then. My voice was too low to be safe. The woman is standing on the porch in front of my house, which Serena and I built together. She is telling everyone that I am the monster. I got up and went to the window to see the city above town. She's so rude to use her skin color after killing him. I moved away from the glass, and my hands were so tight that my knuckles were showing. She's telling them that I'm the rich black man in Atlanta who is putting down the poor white woman. Georgia is very smart and knows what to do. Yes, she does, Kendra said, voice calm. Get the phone I asked for. Call the station. Call all of them. We'll tell them the truth. We'll show them the will, the divorce papers, and the $150,000 gambling bill. Kendra put up one strong hand and said, No. That word stopped me in my tracks. What do you mean by no? She's saying bad things about me and making me look bad. I was angry, but Kendra told me, Hey, Zay, listen to me. Her voice cut through my anger. This is what she wants. She's stuck because she doesn't have any evidence or a case. She can't win in court, so she's trying to win in the eyes of the people. She doesn't care what other people think. She wants to fight in the media. Kendra added, She knows if we'll only get dirty if we jump into this mud pit with her. It will look like we're going after the poor widow who is crying. By making it look like we would be proving her point. I yelled, We just let her. Erst, which means we let her do that. We let her go. Kendra said, Talk, and she smiled in a cold, mean way. She can be on any show she wants. Let's let her fake tears cover all of Atlanta. We didn't stop her from lying. I asked why. Zaz, she's not lying. She's lying under oath before she even gets to the stand. Each we can show proof that everything she says on TV is not true. She's making our case stronger. She's using her mouth to kill herself. She took out her phone. Malachi is still working. He doesn't want to take a chance. No more bills. He's talking to the coroner's office on the phone. He's taking the 911 call. He's after the money. Kendra looked at me. Her eyes were just as mean as Serena's were before. Brenda thinks the news at 6-2 is like a game of checkers for her. There is chess going on in a federal court. Then let her talk. Let her go. Lie about you. Let the whole city see her cry. She crossed the room and stood next to me and him looking out the window while we stand next to each other. We're not going to answer on TV. Zay will answer in they went to court with the fake deed, the divorce papers, the new will, and their gambling bills. She took a deep breath. Taking a deep breath with the last report from the medical inspector. We won't just take when we do. For your good name, we'll take away her rights. I saw the lights of the big city, sparkles down below. Finally, the anger in my chest went away and turned back into a piece of ice. She was right. Allow her to talk. Fulton County has a courtroom that is a very cold place. It's not like it looks on TV. It's old marble floors, and the air it has a smell of old coffee and floor shine. In my Sunday suit, I sat down next to Kendra on a hard wooden seat, the one I stomped on Serena. The one I buried Andre in. She was sitting across the room from Brenda. She put on her simple black widow's dress again. She was dressed in something with a small veil over her face. She had a tissue in her hand. She was in front of everyone. Ron Soloway was her lawyer. He walked around in front of the judge's desk like he owned the place. He was putting on a show, too. It was full in half of the hall full. The writer, Donnie Price, stood in the front row with his pen ready. That was something Brenda made sure of. Ron, Your Honor, he spoke, and his voice echoed through the empty room. This story is sad. He brought up a simple but terrible event. Brenda did a great quiet sober on cue when I turned to her. There is trouble going on with my client. A widow who is sad and broke is making a widow unhappy. This man made me feel bad. He told me to look. Isaiah Coleman, a man we just learned is not only a handyman but also a very wealthy real estate mogul, a lot of power that is hidden. He didn't say anything else about those words. He had already dealt his cards. It's just greed, Your Honor. Mr. Coleman is making fun of the death of his son to get back at daughter-in-law. I also need to say that the racial themes are scary. A rich, strong black man gets his teams of lawyers to scare and kick out a white woman who is sad and weak. Her house. Judge Alston was an old black woman who was very smart that I saw attack, with eyes that looked like they knew every lie there was. She didn't even move. She looked like she was bored. Ron Soloway kept up the good work. This is bad for my client. Everything she wants is the home her husband loved giving her. This is the very definition of a public or goal, is to get justice for the murder. He took a seat and looked very pleased with himself. As she wrote, she was quickly taking notes on many things. Judge Alol looked at us. She sounded worn out. That's it, Miss Hayes. Kendra got up. She looked really calm. One thing Mr. Soloway is right about is that you are honor. This is sad, but it is. This one is not what he means. She did the fake thing. He swore to get the property back in court. A sweet Orbanavi. He says his client is the one who is wronged. Kendra put the paper back down. There is no need for a fight about who owns that house, Your Honor. In fact, we ask for an instant, getting rid of this case right away. Ron Soloway jumped up and down. What's the point of a deed? It's a valid piece of formal paper. He got a mean look from Judge Alston. Sit down. Hello, Mr. Soloway, you'll have to wait your turn. She looked at Kendra when she turned around. Why did Kendra's voice sound different, Miss Hayes? Like glass, very clear and bright. Since the suit is silly, my grandfather, Mr. Andre Coleman, did not have the formal right to sign the deed, because neither he nor his father, the client, owns that piece of land. Ron Soloway was shocked. What? The house at 412 Sweet Auburn. Like all of Mr. Coleman's, Kendra added. 10 years ago, the Serena Coleman Trust was created to protect the properties in a trust that can't be changed. I'm the boss, and Mr. Isaiah Coleman is the one who benefits. Andre Coleman could. He was stunned when Brenda's lawyer heard that he couldn't give away a place he didn't own. That's not possible. The name on the land is Isaiah Coleman, which is what we found when we looked up the title. Kendra said her voice was cutting out for a bad lawyer. You paid $50 to look online, but you didn't check the transfer of assets to the trust that was recorded in Fulton County with the case number 15C884. This is all open to the public. If you had looked into it, advisor, you would have known that what your client did is not worth anything. He was as white as a sheet and looked at Brenda with fear in his eyes. He had just learned that his client had been lying to him, and he had just sucked in front of the judge. Judge Alston looked at him through her glasses and asked, "Is this real?" "Hey, Mr. Soloway, have you looked at the trust filings?" Ron asked. "No, we haven't." The judge slammed the gavel so hard that it shook the room. The case was then thrown out, and that was all we had to say about it. Here Brenda looked at Ron with a confused and angry face. "What do you understand what that means?" Ron was putting things in his bag while his hands were, "If the house is shaking, it means you lost it." But Kendra wasn't done yet, didn't sit down. She also said, "Your Honor, before we leave, Mr. Soloway, he told everyone that my client was harassing his client and had bad plans on their behalf. This is what he did on TV, and in this court he did it again. Several lies are being told about my client. There needs to be truth in the note it down. Look at Alalai." "Miss Hayes, the case is over," Kendra said in a strong voice. "I understand, Your Honor, but here's why these dishonest actions are now being looked into as part of a criminal case. The press is here. The public is here. They truth must listen." First the judge looked at Kendra, then the reporter, and finally back at me. "Miss, the time is up in 2 minutes, Hayes. Make them worth it." Kendra gave a smile. "Thank you, sir." Turns a little so that she faces the judge and everyone else in the room. "Hello, Mr. Soloway. He says his customer is a poor widow. He's kind of right, because my client isn't greedy. She doesn't have any money." Kendra showed a new file. She owes $150,000 and is poor. Marietta's Mr. Vinny Russo is owed money for games. The shock hit Brenda. Ron Soloway didn't agree, but he was told to be quiet by the judge. It hurt her a lot. That's why she forged the document, Kendra explained. She knew she couldn't ask her husband for money. Why? Because Mr. Andre Coleman had just given her these. The second paper was held up by Kendra, a call for a split-up. He was leaving her. A lot of whispers went through the courtroom. His writing was so fast that I thought his pen might catch fire. It was about to be Brenda Coleman. She was single, separated, and had a lot of debt. That's why Andre knew exactly who he was married to. After 3 days before he died, he made a new will. Kendra took out the third piece of paper, which was his will. It made it very clear that he did not want to give his Isaiah Coleman, his father, is the only person who gets any of his personal goods. The whole room was shocked. Brenda spoke up in the end. The voice wasn't soft. It sounded like a wild animal screaming, "You are not telling the truth, you're not telling the truth. He looked out for me. He would never do that." Judge Alustin hit her gavel over and over. "Put in an order, please, this court. Please cool down, Mrs. Coleman, or I will have someone take you away." Kendra did nothing but wait. She waited until Brenda was done. Screams turned into frantic cries. She spoke less and less until it was almost quiet, but her voice could still be heard everywhere. "The room. She is right about one thing, Your Honor. Andre isn't here to tell us. She made sure of it, not at all." Ron screamed as he stood up. "Lies. My guest who got hurt." "Your Honor," Kendra said that it's not slander to say something that is true. Because of this clear financial reason, we asked the state for a full divorce, loss of the estate, and debt a body count. We found Andre Coleman's body last week. Brenda stopped crying and froze. Finished. She looked up at her face, which was filled with fear. Kendra held up the last one, the file that is very thick. "Here is the final report from the Fulton County Medical Examiner. Coleman did not pass away of a heart attack. His heart was in great shape." That's what I did. "She had big eyes. She wasn't breathing. He died." Kendra said that the person died because they had a lot of internal bleeding from taking too much warfarin rat poison, his coffee over a few weeks. A death that is long, terrible, and horrible. Guardian and heir of my wife, Kendra Hayes, turned away from the judge. She looked Brenda right in the eye. Her speech sounded very clear. "Brenda, you lost more than just your house. You killed him." Brenda hurt her foot. There was no fainting. It didn't work at all. She screamed like a wail as it came out of her. Ron Soloway, his life and work seemed to flash before his eyes as he sat there. I saw them right away. The same 2 cops who had Officer Grant and Officer Tyre stood on my porch. In the back of the hall, they had been standing still the whole time. They began to walk ahead. As they walked by, the reporter gasped. They walked by the shocked people. They walked right up to the defense table, where Brenda was crying so hard she couldn't hold it together. She screamed, "No, no, no! He's lying! They're lying!" The police officer put his big hand on her shoulder. "Kathy Coleman, you are being held for first-degree murder of Andre Coleman." A bright light came on in the reporter's camera. White light. She screamed as they grabbed her, put her arms behind her back, and snapped the putting the chains on. She punched me in the face and yelled, "It was him, it was the old man, he set me up, he set me up." "He killed his own son," she said, but no one heard her. While she screamed, they took her out of town, the marble hall with a loud boom. I sat down next to Kendra. I saw her go. I wasn't pleased. I didn't feel thanks. I was just calm. I looked at the chair that was empty where the person who killed my son had been. And it was the first time since Andre was buried. The cold in my chest began to melt. I said to myself, "Justice, Serena. I kept I promise. We want what's best for our son." It took me 3 months to get back into my sweet Auburn Avenue home. 3 months legal depositions that were very hard, signing papers and hearing the terrible details of Brenda's appeals being turned down. The story, The show was over for good. There were no more cams around. The house was quiet, not loud enough. Kendra was told to meet me there. The police took down the tape weeks ago, but I still couldn't find it. I can't bring myself to cross the line. Today I finally did it. It smelled musty. It looked like a sad place that had been locked up for too long, but it was clean. Someone was paid by Kendra to do, "Please come in and put everything back where it belongs." She had a cup of coffee and was sitting at the kitchen table I set up. Tea. She looked tired, but when I walked in, she smiled. She said in a low voice, "It's nice to see you home, Z." I shook my feeling tight in the throat, and then I went over to the mantel. It was still there with the pictures, my bride and I on our wedding day. This is Andre, who is 7 years old, showing off a crooked birdhouse he built in my workshop. He had a big smile and big gaps between his teeth. Her answer was, "She'll never get out, you know." My back. The state had a very strong case, first-degree murder plus the chance to make money. She will never get out of jail. She's going to die in jail. I put my hand on the frame that holds Andre's picture. One life for another. It looks like everyone made a bad deal. I walked over to her and sat down. It was the same in the kitchen when I left, but for a big piece of paper that was lying on the table spread out. Plans. Kendra looked at first, they looked at me, then at each other. "Z, what are you going to do now?" After all of this, I said everything again as I looked around the small, empty room. Brenda had killed for this simple house, this little piece of wood and plaster. I turned around and looked at the picture of my son. I added in a rough voice, "The craziest part. I still can't get over the fact that she did that. Did everything. The lies, the fakes, and the poison. She did everything for this." I rang the doorbell. On a good day, this house with 3 bedrooms could fetch $300,000. I took a quick look at Kendra. She didn't know, did she? For a small amount of money, she killed her $20 million husband. She had no idea, Z, Kendra said. She also wanted a lot. "It doesn't go well together. I have all that cash," said while shaking my head. "Serena and I worked hard for those years to save, make, and spend." One more thing. Brenda could see only the thing that was right in front of her. I was quiet for a while, for a very long time. The only thing that made noise was the clock on the wall, the same clock that had been going off for all of Andre's life. Kendra showed the ideas that were on the table. "You've been busy." I stated, "I've been thinking about what?" What she wanted, Serena. She told me to keep our work safe. I thought she meant that I should keep the money, the buildings, and the important things. I was wrong, though. I've been wrong for 10 years. What do you mean? Kendra was interested. The plans were opened up. It wasn't for a house, they were for a big building with a low roof. It had big doors, there are high ceilings and lots of workbenches. Kendra, she didn't mean the cash. She meant the work, how proud I was of it, and how much it was worth. From the kitchen window I looked at the kids I saw hanging out on the corners of the area where I had lived all my life. I have nowhere to go. A long time ago, kids who looked a lot like Andre did. "Hi, Kendra," I whispered as I turned back to her. My voice stayed the same. "Let's get things going now. First, sell off the extra goods that aren't needed. You should sell the Inman Park office block, and the apartments are in Edgewood. We have enough." Then Kendra raised an eyebrow. "Enough, Wise? Are you moving to the Bahamas?" I smiled. The first real, it had been months since I had a real smile. It made my face feel strange. "I'm not going to leave, here it is. The Serena Coleman Trust needs to be used now." I tapped on the plans. We are going to build a community center here, a place for these kids to stay, but not just a place to have fun basketball. I want to make my workshop a cutting-edge place for mechanics and woodwork. Any child in Atlanta who not only wants to steal things, but also wants to learn how to make them. Kendra, she looked at the plans and then back at me. I could see that her business-like mask was starting to fall off. I saw the boy who used to run, with my kid all over these places. She was smiling. They will learn how to read a plan from us, said, raising my voice. A new goal is slowly taking over my life. How to cut once and measure twice, how to take care of the tools, how to be happy with what you've made. What are you going to call it? She sked. I looked at the mantel when I turned around. At my boy with a smile that had holes in it, that birdhouse was crooked. It is going to be called Andre's Workshop. I looked at Kendra when I turned around. We both worked hard for 40 years to get rich. Kendra, you need to stop making assets now. It's time to go, setting up a future. That scary thing taught me something. Never don't think less of someone just because they are quiet. There are lots of people in the world just like Brenda. People judge you by your shoes or the car you drive. They make a lot of noise, are foolish and can't see. But it's true strength, real wealth is found alone. Trust, honesty and patience are what make it work. Always wanting more, it always goes too far and hurts itself. But the truth just waits, being hidden until it's time to be told. Thanks for listening to my story. I need to know, what would you have done? Would you have seen the red flags in Brenda? Have you ever felt like someone only saw the top of who you were? Please tell me your story. Where are you watching from? Tell us in the comments. Your stories make me stronger. Don't forget to click like on it, watch this movie and join our channel so I can keep telling you about my journey.